I made Waylon famous, but he fell in love with a woman from the red light district before he became famous. I knew that woman only wanted money, so I gave her money to leave. However, Waylon hated me deeply because of this. Later, he imprisoned me, who was pregnant and suffering from cancer, at home. He didn't give me any medical treatment, making me endure the torture of cancer pain day by day until I died in great pain. Reborn in this life, I decided to fulfill this good deed of saving a woman from the red light district. Waylon proposed to give up the movie that was being filmed and rushed back to Beijing from Hengdian just because his girlfriend Jojo didn't answer his phone call for one day. Everyone in the studio thought he was crazy. This role was in a movie directed by the famous director Chen. I had begged everyone I could to finally help him win this opportunity. Whether for Waylon himself or for our team, it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But Waylon was so hasty that he decided not to film it just like that. At this time, the film crew had just started filming for 2 days, and Waylon had scenes to shoot tomorrow. Once he left, not only would he personally offend the director, but also the entire film crew would be forced to stop working. Even Sam, who had a good temper as an assistant, couldn't help getting angry. Do you know how important this role is? Gina drank until she had a stomach hemorrhage to help you win this role. Are you worthy of her like this? If you really leave, your reputation will be ruined. How can you still stay in the entertainment circle? Waylon looked at Sam calmly. Then I won't stay in it. Sam was stunned, as if he didn't understand what he was saying. Waylon raised his eyes and looked at me behind him with a sneer. You all want me to continue filming and hope that I can become a top star, simply because I can bring benefits to you. We are all connected by interests. Why do you have to put it in such a high-sounding way? For me, being an actor is just a job, while Jojo is my family. She's not the kind of girl who would lose contact for no reason. If she doesn't answer the phone, she must have encountered some trouble that she can't solve. I must go back. Sam wanted to say something more, but I stopped him. In my previous life, he also wanted to interrupt filming because of Jojo's trouble. At that time, I advised him to cherish this opportunity. He said, if this opportunity is gone, there will be another one. There are endless movies to film, but if I miss the moment when Jojo needs me, it will be gone forever. If something happens to her, I will never forgive myself. I thought he was crazy, but out of my sense of responsibility as an agent, I still earnestly advised him to stay and film, and I would go back to take care of that Jojo instead of him. Unexpectedly, I bumped into an embarrassing scene of her with another man. In the dim old staircase, the woman who always looked like an innocent little white flower in front of Waylon was wearing thin clothes and hanging on another man's waist. Who's better, that little star or me? Of course it's you, Brother Chong. The unbearable conversation, mixed with low gasps, filled my ears. At that moment, I was very angry and felt that Waylon didn't deserve this. She treated him so cheaply even though he loved her so much. But when I discovered her scandal, Jojo wasn't panicked at all. Instead, she took out the bed photos she had taken with Waylon and threatened me to ask for money. Only then did I know that Jojo's real identity was actually a prostitute. The man she was fooling around with was the big brother who protected her when she worked in the nightclub. She lied to Waylon that she was just selling wine in the bar to make a living, but in fact, she sold everything. And from the beginning to the end, the reason she approached Waylon was just for money. I asked her, Waylon treats you so well. Don't you have a conscience? She smiled flirtatiously. Who told you to discover my true face? If you hadn't shown up today, maybe I would have been nice to him all the time and even married him. Are you willing to let a woman like me marry him? Because I was afraid of causing trouble, I finally agreed to give her the money. Afraid of affecting Waylon's filming, I even specifically proposed that during his filming period, she could continue to comfort him as his girlfriend. Jojo looked at me at that time and smiled sarcastically. You really love him. You think so much for him. TSK. Unfortunately, although I thought so much for him, I didn't end up with a good result. In my previous life, when Waylon returned to Beijing after filming, I told him the truth about Jojo. But Waylon refused to believe it. He was convinced that JoJo must have her own difficulties. He searched for JoJo like crazy, but what he found was the news that she was in the social news. She was dismembered and thrown into the sewer. It was said that she was still pregnant when she died. Waylon went completely crazy. JoJo's mother somehow found him and told him that the child in her belly was his, and that the reason she left him was that I threatened her with his future. She left him because she loved him. Obviously, that woman was just lying through her teeth to cheat him out of his money. But he actually believed her nonsense. Since then, he hated me deeply. He pretended to have forgotten JoJo, confessed his love to me and got together with me, using me to climb up desperately. But after I got stomach cancer, he imprisoned me at home, didn't give me any medical treatment, and let me die in great pain. During the last period of my life, I couldn't bear the pain and rolled on the ground, begging him to save me for the sake of the child in my belly. He stepped on my hand, looked down at me with hatred and disgust all over his face. Do you think I'll let you give birth to my child? Every time I had sex with you, it made me sick. Both you and the bastard in your belly deserve to die. This is what you owe JoJo. Besides the heartache, I just felt incredible and asked him, do you know what kind of person she is? Obviously, you've also seen that video. These words seemed to touch his nerve, and he instantly became furious and choked my neck fiercely. A video taken at an unknown time can prove nothing. She made mistakes when she was young, but so what? If she had a choice, which girl would be willing to do that kind of thing? I originally had a chance to save her, but you ruined everything. It turned out that he had known all along what kind of person JoJo was. But he still chose to love her. The feeling of suffocation completely overwhelmed me. Before losing consciousness, there was only one thought in my mind. What a fool he is. The past was too painful to look back on. I came back to my senses and nodded at the Waylon in front of me. You're right. There will always be more jobs, but there's only one lover. Go back. I support you. As soon as these words came out, everyone in the room was shocked. Even Waylon showed hesitation on his face. Are you really letting me go back? What about the film crew? Haha, it turned out that he also knew how big of a mess he would leave for me if he just left like this. I patted him on the shoulder, trying my best to make myself look extremely sincere. Don't worry. I'll take care of the film crew. As your agent, I will naturally help you handle everything. Waylon believed my words and let out a sigh of relief. Okay. You have a good talk with the director. When JoJo gets better, I'll come back immediately. After saying that, he couldn't wait to pull his suitcase and leave. Looking at his back, I showed a sneer. In your dreams. There's no way I'll let you come back. I said to Sam, who was standing there stupidly, contact Clark immediately and ask him to come. Sam was stunned. The film side has chosen Waylon. Can we change the actor temporarily? Is it okay? Saving the situation is as urgent as putting out a fire. How can we know it won't work without trying? In my previous life, Clark was Waylon's strongest competitor in the company. The two of them were similar in terms of type, temperament, and even acting skills. But for Waylon's sake, I snatched several resources from Clark, which led to his career not making any progress. Later, he left the company angrily. His fans always said that I, the female devil, had delayed his acting career. Calculating the time, Clark's contract with the company should have expired by now. Because he had no movies to film, he completely fell out with his agent Sister Wong and was ready to leave the company. Now, I'm offering him an olive branch. Consider it as making up for what I owed him in my previous life and eliminating my own karma. Although the current role is just a supporting male role, it's very likable. In my previous life, Waylon became a very popular male actor overnight by virtue of this role. This also laid the foundation for him to become a top star in the future. Since he doesn't want this great opportunity, he can't blame me for giving it to someone else. As expected, Clark's first reaction when he received the call was to hang up without hesitation and even added a "get lost" for Sam. Sam looked at me awkwardly. I directly took the phone and dialed him again. I know you used to have a prejudice against me, but this time I'm sincerely inviting you. As long as you're willing to come, I'll handle the matters with the film side. I'll treat you the same way as I treated Waylon before." Clark sneered, "Did you fall out with your little darling? I'm not interested in being your backup." I gave a cold laugh. "Not everyone can catch my eye. If you come, I'll promise you this job, and maybe you'll be the one who becomes famous in the future. If you don't come, I'll offer this job to someone else. There's no shortage of out-of-work male actors in the entertainment circle." He thought for a few seconds and then changed his mind to say that he would consider it. I knew that he had decided to give it a try. I asked Sam to send him the script for tomorrow's shooting and told him to be sure to arrive at the film set and memorize the lines before the shooting started. This time, he didn't object. When the next day came, he really arrived at the film set early in the morning. The director was furious when he heard that we were going to change the actor temporarily. He pointed at my nose and shouted abuse at me. But by this time, the filming had already started. Since everything was ready to go, delaying for one day would mean losing money for that day. He couldn't find a suitable actor to replace Waylon at short notice, so in the end, he could only agree to let Clark have a try. And Clark really lived up to my expectations. As soon as he appeared on the stage, he amazed everyone. The character's setting was that of a piano prodigy teenager, and Clark himself had learned to play the piano since childhood and was a player with a piano grade 10 certificate. When he sat in front of the piano and his fingers danced on the black and white keys, he seemed to blend perfectly with the character. The director immediately decided on Clark and asked me, "Why didn't your company let him come for the audition earlier? He's more suitable for this role than Waylon." Everyone on the set, including Clark, turned their heads and looked at me from a distance, with even a faint sarcastic smile on their faces. I looked at Clark calmly and replied to the director, "Because I was blind before. I mistook a fisheye for a pearl. Fortunately, I've come to my senses now." Probably everyone present knew how I had treated Waylon before, and at this moment, they all looked at each other in astonishment. Probably none of them had expected that I would be so frank. Soon, the director smoothed things over for me, a blessing in disguise. There are better days ahead for our film crew. I thanked the director for his recognition of Clark and then turned around and left the film set. Looking at the clear sky above the filming location, I couldn't help but think of my past with Waylon. It's undeniable that I used to have a crush on Waylon. Waylon was the first artist I managed after graduating from university. Among the dozen or so new artists in the company, he was the most hardworking one. I got to know him well because of an accident. He still insisted on practicing body movements when he had a high fever of 40 degrees Celsius, which led to him fainting. On the way to send him to the hospital, I asked him, "Is it worth it? You know that in the entertainment circle, hard work doesn't always pay off." He gave me a bright smile instead, "But if you don't work hard, you definitely won't get anything in return. I was born in a small mountain valley, but I just want to be a big star." It was originally a wild dream. For me, as long as I keep moving forward, I've won. However, I need your help. I need better roles. Being stared at by his eyes that were as bright as stars, my heart beat fast, and I made a promise to him, "I'll help you. You'll become a top star, and I'll be the agent of a top star. We'll definitely meet at the peak." Not long after that, because the original boss molested me and he helped me fight the boss, we were both kicked out of the company together. I thought he was stupid. At that time, I was just an agent who couldn't bring him any resources. But he took it for granted and said, "Didn't we agree to meet at the peak?" At that moment, the young man was outstanding and shining brightly. Probably because of the trust and companionship at that moment, I always had a favorable impression of Waylon. I even regarded his career as my own. In order to win roles for him, I put on a smiling face and tried every means possible. And Waylon also lived up to expectations. No matter what kind of role was given to him, even if it was just an insignificant walk-on part, he treated it seriously. In this way, he went from being a walk-on to playing the fifth or fourth male lead. He gradually built up a good reputation bit by bit and slowly got a few roles that people could remember. No one knew better than I did how much effort he had put into it. And during this process, we fought side by side and had always been the closest to each other. Once, everyone thought that Waylon and I would be together. Until Jojo appeared. The first time I met Jojo was when Waylon got into a fight with some hooligans because of her and was taken to the police station. It was said that the reason was that Jojo took him to have a late-night food stall. The man at the next table took a few more glances at Jojo and then turned around and said to the people at his own table that this girl was sexy. After hearing that, Jojo cried silently. Waylon couldn't bear to see Jojo's tears, so he smashed the other person's head with a beer bottle. When I arrived at the police station, Jojo was sobbing in Waylon's arms. In the middle of winter, she was wearing a short skirt with bare legs, and her white legs were shining in the dark night. After negotiation, the man agreed to settle the matter privately, but we had to transfer 50,000 yuan to him on the spot. I transferred 50,000 yuan from my own card to the man, but after leaving the gate of the police station, Waylon shouted at the other person, "I'll beat you up every time I see you in the future." Thinking about this incident now, I can still recall my sadness and helplessness at that time. But at that time, I was really still willing to help him. I always thought that even if he didn't like me, we were comrades who had agreed to meet at the peak. If I hadn't discovered later that Jojo was cheating and hiding things from him and was bound to drag him into the abyss, I wouldn't have driven her away. For me in the past, even out of loyalty to Waylon, I hoped that he could be well. Unfortunately, all my sincere feelings were repaid with such a tragic ending. Waylon's call interrupted my memories. On the phone, he was furious and questioned me why I had let Clark take over his role. "Didn't you say that you would communicate well with the director for me and wait for me to come back? Who does Clark think he is? Why should he take my role?" Listening to his angry and unreasonable voice, I gave a cold laugh. Yesterday he was still swearing that if this opportunity was gone, there would be another one. Now that he's really been replaced, he's getting so worked up again. Once, because I planned everything for him in advance, it gave him the illusion that everything he got was taken for granted. But in this world, how can there be so many things that are taken for granted? At this time, a lone wild goose appeared in the sky at some point. It seemed to have lost its direction and kept circling in the same direction. Waylon was still chattering in my ear, "Gina, I thought that besides our working relationship, we were also friends. What do you mean by stabbing me in the back now? Is it really like what Jojo said, that because you like me and I chose Jojo, you're using these underhanded means in secret? But don't forget, becoming famous depends on fate. Clark was originally defeated by me. I'm afraid you've bet on the wrong horse by choosing him." On the phone, Waylon was almost roaring. And I stood there, feeling cold all over. It turned out that Waylon had known all along that I had deep feelings for him. But he pretended not to know and just regarded my affection as a ladder for him to climb up. Even in my previous life, those regrets that I thought were more than friendship but less than love were just his deliberate actions. He's really disgusting. Looking at the lone wild goose in the sky, I smiled extremely sincerely. "Waylon, Jojo misunderstood. I really don't like you. I only regard you as an ordinary friend. I hope you can explain it to Jojo and don't let her misunderstand. She's so nice and really suits you. Whether as a friend or as an agent, I hope you two can be together well." There was a pause on the other end of the phone. After a long while, he said, "Then how do you explain the Clark thing?" I sighed, "I'm doing it for your own good. If you flew back to Beijing without permission, the film side will demand compensation for breach of contract, and that's a huge amount of money. And Clark happens to be an artist in our company. By using him to replace you, we can avoid your breach of contract fee. It's just a role. If this opportunity is gone, there will be another one. Why care so much? You should believe in yourself. And this way, you can just take this time to spend more time with Jojo. Isn't that a good thing for you?" There was a sudden silence on the other end of the phone. Probably he didn't know how to answer. I smiled slightly and slowly threw out my bait. "In these 2 days, I've thought carefully about your matter with JoJo and suddenly feel that this might be an opportunity. Nowadays, male celebrities are all too lacking in masculinity. They always hide their relationships. Once their relationships are exposed, their fans immediately get defensive. But what if we take a different approach and take the initiative to make your relationship with JoJo public? Think about it. A male celebrity taking the initiative to make his relationship with an ordinary girl public, how romantic and brave that is. This can not only help market your new image but also reassure JoJo. So much so that Waylon completely fell for my nonsense. I'm sorry. You've been thinking so much for me, and I just misunderstood you. I cut him off and said from the bottom of my heart, just think about it. Which girl wouldn't want to have a boyfriend as good-looking and devoted as you? This persona will definitely work. Believe me. I tried my best to make my tone sound extremely certain. So much so that Waylon completely fell for my nonsense. I'm sorry. You've been thinking so much for me, and I just misunderstood you. I cut him off and said from the bottom of my heart, don't mention it. I'm your agent, after all. It's my duty to think for you. When you become a top male celebrity, if you become wealthy and noble, don't forget me. After hanging up the phone, I looked at my reflection in the floor-to-ceiling window and gave a cold laugh. Waylon, in my previous life, didn't you regret the most that you couldn't save JoJo? In this life, just go to hell with your JoJo. Waylon's downfall went even more smoothly than I had expected. Before I could return to Beijing from Hengdian, he couldn't wait to make his relationship with JoJo public. On Weibo, he announced in a high-profile manner, one life, one love, one person. And he posted pictures of him and JoJo. To be exact, they were pictures of them kissing on the lips. The words were decent enough, but the pictures were a bit of an eyesore. Waylon's on-screen image had always been rather fresh and healthy, but for some reason, in this picture, a sense of sleaziness just hit you right in the face. It's hard to comment. The boss called me immediately. His first question was whether Waylon was trying to ruin himself, and the second question was how I managed my artist. Of course, I told the boss that I was looking into the situation and would handle it as soon as possible. Well, he had a way to heaven but didn't take it. Instead, he insisted on knocking on the door of hell. What could I do? Although Waylon didn't have too many fans, after he made his relationship public, his fan group exploded. The fans were divided into two camps. One camp dug up JoJo's social media accounts, found multiple revealing pictures and some coquettish remarks, accused Waylon of marketing his image of being clean and enterprising all these years while his true nature was that of an ungrateful and lust-driven scoundrel, and unfollowed him on the spot. The other camp said that no matter who the new sister-in-law was or what her past was like, as long as their idol liked her, they would respect and bless them. I lurked in the group, watched them arguing back and forth, and just smiled without saying a word. I knew that in fact, the camp that unfollowed him was Waylon's die-hard fans. Back then, it was I who asked my assistant to organize these die-hard fans to leave crazy comments under every social media post promoting Waylon. And it was also I who secretly encouraged them to send coffee and support trucks to every film crew Waylon was in. I thought that this time the big fans would take some action. Sure enough, less than half a day after Waylon announced his relationship, one of the fan leaders named Traveling with the Boat started organizing people in the super topic to give advice to the agency and Waylon himself. She, along with dozens of die-hard fans, posted those unseemly pictures of JoJo together. They questioned Waylon, you don't even respect yourself. What do you think of your fans' love? They demanded that Waylon break up immediately and give an explanation to all the fans. To be honest, at this time, most of the fans still sincerely hoped that Waylon would be well. Their comments were relatively rational and mild. You can have a relationship, but please have a proper one. Aesthetics is subjective. We should respect the diversity of aesthetics. The kind of woman you date represents your level. However, Waylon was so eager to protect his girlfriend that he chose to directly argue with the big fans on Weibo. At first, it was still normal, I'm an adult. I don't need to consider my fans' feelings when choosing who to date. If necessary, I will use legal means. Later, his words became more and more outrageous. Jojo is my ideal type. I'm lucky to have met her. Since I'm dating her, I must make it public. I will never hurt her just to keep my fans. Those who slander Jojo don't know how miserable their own lives are behind the scenes, and they don't know how ugly they are. They must be jealous of her. His remarks were like those of an overbearing boss gone crazy, which made the fan leader extremely sad and left passers-by dumbfounded. Finally, traveling with the boat, completely turned from a fan to a hater and started to set the tone, exposing all kinds of his black materials. Among them, the more concentrated ones were to tear apart Waylon's current ingratitude by repeatedly editing his previous interview videos. Simply put, most of those videos were his ambiguous remarks about me in the past. For example, 3 years ago, when he won the Best Newcomer award at the Golden Magnolia Awards for the first time, he thanked me first, and then thanked the producers and our agency. Another example, 1 year ago, during an interview on a variety show, the host asked him about his ideal type. He lowered his head and was shy for a long time. Finally, he replied, "My ideal type is a girl who is a Libra, has short chestnut hair, and likes to drink iced Americanos in winter." Such a specific description made the host immediately turn his eyes to me who was waiting for him off the stage. At that time, I had short chestnut hair and was holding an iced Americano in my hand. The host understood immediately and asked him if he had confessed his love. Waylon sat up straight and looked at the camera seriously and said, "She's so nice, but I'm not good enough now. I want to wait until I'm worthy of her before confessing my love." Afraid that he would lose his fans, from that day on, I grew my hair long and never drank iced Americanos in front of others. However, after the variety show was broadcast, fans still guessed that the ideal type he mentioned was me, his agent. After the interview, neither Waylon nor I mentioned this topic in private again. I thought it was a tacit understanding between us. Now it seems that it might have just been my wishful thinking or his scheming. Now, this interview was cut out by the fan leader again and accompanied by pictures of me from the same period to prove that he was a scheming man with two faces. The first picture showed me with short chestnut hair driving a big director home at 3 o'clock in the morning. The second picture showed me kneeling on the ice in the winter morning to tidy up the hem of Waylon's costume. The third picture showed me sick, with a fever-reducing patch on my forehead, sending cold medicine to Waylon who was also sick. When he needed his agent to work hard for him, he said some ambiguous words to the agent, making the agent work like a slave for the director at 3 o'clock in the morning, kneeling on the ice in winter to do the work that an assistant should do, sending medicine to him even when having a fever. Just when he was about to become famous, he kicked the agent aside and found a sleazy true love who knew how to climb into bed. He's a man who's driven by lust and really disappointing. I looked at these revelations and smiled from the bottom of my heart, but at the same time, I felt a pang of sadness for the silly me in the past. Fortunately, all of this was coming to an end. As I expected, a few days after the fan leader exposed that Waylon had two faces, I was blocked by Jojo. She came to the company and asked me in front of everyone, "Was all of this arranged by you?" Before I could answer, she shouted again, "Why are you so cheap? Even if you threw yourself at Waylon, he wouldn't want you. How dare you go around causing trouble? You." This time, before she could finish speaking, I didn't hesitate to slap her and coldly told her to get out. And Waylon, who arrived late, grabbed the hand with which I had just slapped Jojo with one hand. He looked unfriendly, with veins bulging on his neck. "Gina, what do you think you're doing? I don't want to fight with you. Don't force me." Apologized to Jojo immediately. I met Waylon's gaze and said coldly, "I said I don't oppose you having a relationship, but please keep this crazy woman in check. She was being unreasonable today, so I taught her a lesson with a slap on your behalf. Next time if she dares to come in front of me again, it won't be just a slap." Waylon was driven mad by my words. He even raised his hand, but soon, the company's security guards rushed up and separated him from me completely. After this incident, I proposed that I would no longer be Wayland's agent and transferred him to other agents in the company. Perhaps after calming down, Wayland regained some sense. He asked me a bit sadly, "Is it just because I'm dating JoJo that you won't be my agent anymore?" She's indeed a bit thoughtless, but we also had agreements and vows between us. Have you forgotten them all? Wayland, so you still remember our agreements. But I won't give you another chance. Facing his sadness, I tried my best to reply calmly, "Well, for the sake of your relationship with your girlfriend and also for your future, I'll take care of the aftermath of this matter." I specifically registered a new account and clarified my relationship with Wayland on Weibo. I said, "We simply have a working relationship. Please don't make wild guesses, fans, and don't let the future Mrs. Wayland misunderstand. Meanwhile, due to my personal work adjustment, I won't be Wayland's agent anymore in the future. From now on, I wish him a bright future." Wayland reposted my Weibo, saying that he thanked me, his good friend, and also wished me a smooth future. At the same time, he reiterated once again, "My girlfriend is an ordinary person. She's innocent and lovely and not from the entertainment circle. I hope fans can give me some personal space to manage my private life." After this turmoil, although Wayland lost some die-hard fans, he still gained some popularity on Weibo and stirred up some heat. Surprisingly, he even got several small advertisements and also attracted a group of passerby fans. Of course, all of this was within my plan. After all, only when one falls from a high place will the fall hurt more. After completely handing over the agency work related to Wayland, I contacted a familiar producer and told Wayland that I could get him an offer for a movie directed by a famous director. If he got this offer, Wayland's income would at least double. The producer tactfully suggested to him that it would be better to sign the contract in his personal name so that the company's commission could be saved. As I had expected, JoJo indeed had the idea of becoming Wayland's agent herself. Soon, Wayland came to me, hoping that I could do him one last favor and help him terminate the contract with the company. After all, the new agent he had was managing several big actors and couldn't pay much attention to him at all. I readily agreed and said that I would talk to the boss. The boss was firmly against it at first until I told him that JoJo was a prostitute. I said that if the contract was terminated now, the company's loss would be limited. Let him pay a sum of liquidated damages, and the company might even make a profit. But if paparazzi exposed this, the company would be stuck with a big problem. The boss immediately agreed. When I walked out of the boss's office, he asked me, "Why didn't you mention this to Wayland?" I knew what the boss meant. After all, everyone in the company knew that I had a crush on Wayland. I smiled and said, "When people interact with each other, there should be a sense of boundaries. Even when parents oppose a relationship, it's possible for people to fall out. What's more, I'm just his agent. He's an adult and should be responsible for his own choices." The boss patted me on the shoulder. "It's best that you think this way. I always thought highly of you before, but I always felt that you were too emotional about Wayland and that wasn't the way to be a great agent. Now, you have a promising future." I smiled at the boss. Indeed, I had a promising future. When Wayland came to the company to terminate the contract, he brought JoJo with him. Because the company asked Wayland to pay a considerable amount of liquidated damages, JoJo was very dissatisfied. She looked at me with a sneer and said to Wayland with a hint, "I thought she liked you so much. She can't even handle the liquidated damages." Wayland was a bit embarrassed and said, "JoJo is just outspoken. She didn't mean anything else. Don't take it to heart." I smiled generously to show that I understood. JoJo snorted coldly and then said loudly, "However, our Wayland will earn back this little money soon. I'll be Wayland's agent from now on. For any future cooperation, come directly to me. Don't go over my head and contact him. If I find out, I'll be angry." She looked so domineering. She fully demonstrated what it meant for a petty person to become arrogant when they got what they wanted. And I just quietly watched her. For someone who was about to be ruined, I really couldn't have any emotional fluctuations. She didn't know that I had already anonymously sent those scandalous materials about her when she was a prostitute to her anti-fans. When they walked out of the company, they would be greeted by a flood of black materials and scandals about JoJo. The news that Waylon fell in love with a prostitute really rushed to the top of the hot search list. Together with the news, some unsightly pictures of JoJo when she was a prostitute were also posted. Fans were all expressing their breakdown. Did this woman put a spell on Waylon? Why on earth? Is there a need to ask why? What good can a man who hangs out with a prostitute be? An old has-been dog, get out of the earth. Of course, there were also some people who were just watching the fun and enjoying the gossip. What do you know? This is love. A man's greatest interest is to lead a good woman astray and persuade a prostitute to reform. Waylon knows it well. I'm so moved by this touching love that I'm shedding excited tears. Please stay together forever and have a harmonious marriage. Whoever makes a modern version of Saving a Prostitute can use this guy as the male lead right away. Facing the overwhelming ridicule, Waylon was the first to respond. He said, "My girlfriend did make mistakes when she was young. But it wasn't her fault. If she had a choice, which girl would be willing to take that path? Don't think that everyone is as lucky as you just because you were born into a wealthy family. When you were studying under the protection of your parents and the biggest pain for you was not getting good grades in the college entrance examination, she had already dropped out of school early and had to earn a living by selling her smiles. I don't think my girlfriend's past is a shame. Even if it's a shame, it's the shame of the whole society that forced her into this situation." And JoJo said, "Thank you, dear Mr. Waylon. With you in this life, I have nothing more to ask for." I wasn't surprised at all that Waylon would say these words. Because he thought the same way in his previous life. Or maybe what JoJo was really like didn't matter anymore. The important thing was that his arrogance wouldn't allow him to accept that the girl he loved was a slut. So, no matter what, he had to prove to the public that she was a pure white lotus. Unfortunately, netizens didn't buy it. Everyone said that if his brain was broken, he should go to see a neurologist instead of performing something embarrassing in public. Society, are you okay? As a poor student, I'd like to say please don't try to use this as an excuse. Now there are student loans and mechanisms to help those who drop out of school. As long as one wants to study, there's always a chance to go to school. Even if one doesn't go to school, there are other ways to make money. She just chose the easiest way. Even if we can't discriminate against this kind of degeneration, we should at least not regard it as an honor. Soon, some of JoJo's former classmates told the real reason for her degeneration. I'm her junior high school classmate. She smoked, drank, and had abortions when she was in junior high school. At that time, she seemed to hang out with a guy called Brother Chong all day long. These classmates also posted pictures of JoJo wearing smoky makeup and smoking while leaning on a motorcycle. She looked like the heroine of those youth pain literature. Immediately after that, more classmates recalled the past events of JoJo and Brother Chong doing something in the school toilet and having a passionate kiss in the heavy rain. And as the discussion grew more and more heated, the keyword #Waylon responds to his prostitute girlfriend hashtag finally rushed to the top 3 of the hot search list. Waylon didn't respond this time, and the hot search finally cooled down. During this period, he called me once. But I didn't answer it. By the way, I blocked all his contact information. Goodbye, Waylon. And not long after that, the news that Waylon beat JoJo violently on the street, causing his girlfriend to have a miscarriage, appeared on the hot search list again. One after another, big scandals about Waylon emerged, making the onlookers enjoy the gossip very much. Many people said they thanked Waylon for contributing such wonderful plots. Wasn't it more interesting than TV shows? While Waylon was deeply involved in scandals, I was busy picking new artists and scripts. Because of the memories of my previous life, I knew clearly which plays would become popular. What I was doing now was to pick those small-budget, unremarkable plays that would become popular in the future and quietly put my artists in them. The rest was to sit back and reap the benefits. When I came to my senses, I heard that Waylon was beaten up on the street and sent to the hospital. The person who did it was Brother Chung, whom I saw Jojo hanging on his waist in my previous life. My assistant Sam told me all the rumors in detail. It was said that the child in Jojo's belly wasn't Waylon's at all, but Brother Chung's. Brother Chung and Jojo were childhood sweethearts. One was a bouncer in a nightclub, and the other was a prostitute in a nightclub. They were the real miserable couple, and Waylon was just the one chosen by Jojo to take the blame. I vaguely remembered that it seemed that Jojo was dismembered by this Brother Chung in my previous life. Perhaps the child in her belly wasn't Brother Chung's at all. Of course, none of this has anything to do with me anymore. Sam sighed and said that he didn't know if Waylon would regret losing everything for a woman like that. Waylon had indeed lost everything. Once caught in such a scandal, it's impossible for him to make a comeback. He had always thought highly of himself before, believing that he was extremely talented and born to be an actor. So much so that he forgot that in the entertainment circle, there's no shortage of talented male actors at all. They come and go like leaks. And what can really help you succeed, besides talent, are self-discipline, self-reflection, and connections. And what can really help you succeed, besides talent,